Okay, in part two of the Emigree, we'll look at stanza two. The white streets of that city, the graceful slopes grow even clearer as time rolls its tanks and the frontiers rise between us, close like waves. That child's vocabulary I carried here, like a hollow doll, opens and spills a grammar. Soon I shall have every coloured molecule of it. It may by now be a lie, banned by the state, but I can't get it off my tongue. It tastes of sunlight. Okay, at the start of this particular stanza, we get an idyllic, beautiful view of her last city, the white street. It's pure, it's innocent, which, if you think about the personification in the first stanza, where it's sick with tyrants, it's the idea that it didn't deserve that. It's too precious, it's too pure, it's too innocent to deserve the war that came to it. The graceful slopes, look at these adjectives: white streets, graceful slopes, glow even clearer. So the idea of these beautiful white buildings, the white streets, glowing in the sunlight. It's a really idyllic, beautiful image that gives us the sense of the beauty of the place and the importance of the memory to Carol Rumin's or the persona. Glows even clearer as time rolls its tanks and the frontiers rise between us, close like waves. Lots going on here. Let's start with time rolls its tanks. This is the key quote for this bit, really, although there's plenty in this section. Time rolls its tanks, I think, is the one that you can get most out of. The idea is that time and war are destructive. So over time, as the tanks come through, it just gets more and more destroyed. And the sense of rolls is continuous. As time goes on, it just gets worse and worse. There's no escape from the war once it starts. So it's more of a pessimistic image than we've had in the first stanza. We've got the imagery of war there as the idea of time rolling its tanks. And the personification of time as well suggests that time has its part to play in the destruction of the city. That it too, the very concept of time, is to blame because power shifts and brings conflict as we've got to the mildest city and this November has arrived. And then we've got the juxtaposition between a man-made idea of frontiers. A frontier is a border, a boundary, close like waves. And waves, obviously, a much more natural image. And the juxtaposition of those actually heightens the sense of injustice, that the borders are changing, that she's been forced out of her city. Close like waves. We could look at it as a natural phenomenon, that it was bound to happen, but also that juxtaposition of the frontiers closing like waves makes it seem as though it hasn't been necessary because this is a man-made construct. And then we've got a little bit about language. We talked in the title that émigré is a French word, and it's disorientating for somebody to be in a new city with a new language and not know how to speak, not know how to communicate. And actually her sense of her initial language really comes through in the next few lines. That child's vocabulary I carried here like a hollow doll opens and spills a grammar. Soon I shall have every coloured molecule of it. So the sense of her own language being close to her is brought through this bit. The idea of like a hollow doll gives us the sense of a language as an identity. She's empty without that language. It's part of her. It's her childhood. It's natural. And the idea of every molecule of it, soon I shall have every molecule of it. She wants to learn that language. She wants that to be part of her identity. And the idea of the metaphor of the molecule gives that sense of preciousness. She wants to have every small part of it, so it emphasises the value to her. That in itself is now banned by the state. So the idea that the language that she once spoke in that city is now forbidden doesn't stop her wanting it. She wants that part of her identity. She wants to exist with that as part of her, like the hollow doll. It's part of her very being, part of her identity. This section to me really links closely to checking out my history. If you think of John Agard's use of his Creole to get across the identity he feels as a Caribbean man. And like that, the idea of language is important to Carol Rumans. I can't get it off my tongue. It tastes of sunlight. So we've got a mixing here of different senses. The idea of sound and speech linked with taste. It's actually called synesthesia, the blurring of different senses together. But you know, if you can't remember that word, synesthesia, those going for the top grades, by all means, go for that. But just talk about the blurring of different senses to give the sense that it's overwhelming to her. She wants every single part of that identity that was given to her by her initial city, and she can't escape it. It's you know, we've got the like a hollow doll. It's inside her. I can't get it off my tongue. It's that sense that her identity, her commitment, her belonging to that original city is part of her identity, something that she will never get rid of, something that she will never shake. It tastes of sunlight. And once again, like in the first stanza, we've got the idea of the joyous symbol of sunlight ending again what is a slightly darker stanza, this idea of time rolling its tanks, the inescapable act of war. But by the end of it, she tastes that sunlight. Nothing can shake off that joyous, joyful, cherished image of her original city.